Joining us right now for some perspective, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. He's the deputy Republican whip in the House and a veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. I saw you laughing as I was saying what happened to Ryan, but you're happy you're not him this morning. Were you on that call back in October?
Yeah, look, that was a call between members. Obviously, you get that. And I think it was around August or September. And look, it just, it was widely reported what he said. Right. He basically said in public what he said, which is, and this is right after the Access Hollywood issue. So, for Breitbart to release this and act like this is some behind the scenes, secret thing that happened, everybody already knew this. Again, just goes to show that, sometimes these news groups there think that they can be the next branch of government.
Well,
and,
look, news group would be a very generous assessment of this particular outlet that we're talking about right now. But the point is pretty clear. This is Steve Bannon's mouthpiece organization, and they're basically trying to out Ryan as disloyal to the President of the United States. Fair appraisal?
No, not at all. I mean, look, in the campaign, we were all struggling with what was being done, what was being said, very unorthodox. And then, of course, with the Access Hollywood tape, it was difficult. But since the election, there have been a lot of us that have said, including Mr. Ryan, look, we'll be supportive in every way we can of this president. We have a lot of big things we want to do. At the same time, if something happens that we need to be clear and call out, we'll do that. So I think there's really not been anybody that's been more loyal to, frankly, President Trump than Speaker Ryan in terms of saying we got to work together to do some big things.
I mean, one more step down this road, and to your own point, no leader has been more noticeably quiet about the lack of proof backing this wiretapping claim made by President Trump, not only accusing a former president of a felony, but calling President Obama a bad or sick man. Ryan, relatively quiet. Do you believe the wiretapping claims? Do you think the president should have to put up the proof before anybody investigates further?
Yeah, I think he should put that proof up. I think, look, if in fact the former president tapped a campaign, then obviously we need to know that. That's very important. At the same time, if there was a legal FISA order to listen in on, say, whether it was Michael Flynn or somebody else, we ought to know that. And, what was the compelling evidence for a FISA order? That's something we ought to know. That's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act order. And then, if in fact some conversations may have been caught up as we were doing what we should do, which is monitoring the conversations of foreign ambassadors, that's important to know too. But yeah, I think anytime you make an accusation of a former president, in essence of committing a felony, we need to know the answer to that. And it seems like over the last few days, and I'm happy for this, the White House has begun to walk that back. I just think they need to come out and fully say, look, maybe the word wiretap was used. This was not a wiretap. It was X, Y, or Z or nothing. And that's what we need to find out. And frankly, the intel committees, I think, are doing their jobs to get to the bottom of that as well.
But why is it their job? Why the president comes out, he's a phone call away from getting the answer. He can declassify any information he gets whenever he wants. He's got, almost the most power in that regard, certainly more than anybody else. Why should these committees that were supposed to be chasing down Russia connections and leaks have to take on this thing that only came up because the president wanted to create this issue?
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think the onus is on the White House to say, hey, here is the proof that it happened, or here's the proof that it didn't, or, hey, maybe this is what we mixed up again. If there was a FISA court order to monitor maybe General Flynn when he was in the Trump Tower, something like that. But short of that, short of the president and the White House saying this is exactly what happened, it is incumbent on the intel committees to get to the bottom of this. And it seems like they are. Again, yesterday was a deadline, and I'm not sure what information came in, if anything. I think this serves as if I was the president, I would clear this up because it serves as a major distraction, frankly, for some of the big issues he wants to accomplish and we want to accomplish with him.
Hard to clear it up if there's nothing there. It seems to be the bind he is in. Let's move on to another issue, the CBO. How damaging is this CBO report to getting this bill passed in the House?
Well, obviously, it's a big headline. It's something we have to deal with. But I think there's really a couple of big things to remember in this process. And this is very important. The CBO is scoring 1/3 of what we want to do. That's not their fault. That's all the information they have, and that's all they can actually act on. The next thing, if we pass this reconciliation bill, and we're very limited as to what we can actually do in reconciliation in order to get it on 51 votes. Next is Secretary Price, who has a lot of things he can do. He can't communicate those directly with Congress because of ethics rules. And then third is even broader things like cross-state competition, et cetera, for insurance. And I think in that third tranche is where we actually deal with a lot of the truth in billing issues, the backroom, how do we price this? How do we competitively shop? So, and that's where we hope to bring a lot of Democrats in, because some of these things are non-controversial. So, look, it's not the best headline in the world, that's for sure, but there are some good things in this CBO score. They did get a lot of stuff wrong with Obamacare, and frankly, this is just one of three things we want to do for health care.
Well, they got how many people would be covered wrong, but there are reasons for that. They also got things right. And the CBO is headed up by a guy who Secretary Price said his vast understanding of economic and labor market policy will be invaluable to the work of the CBO and the important role it will continue to play. And now he's trashing the CBO, kind of reeks of politics. Do you think it will be compelling to say to people, even on the left or on the right, hey, I know these numbers are bad, but go along with us, because phase 2 is something that Price can't talk about. And phase 3 is going to be across state line competition, which almost no economist will argue compellingly will reduce costs. You price insurance on where you are, not where the company is. Like car insurance, you may buy it in New York, but if you're driving in Georgia, it's priced in Georgia. So that's not seen as a home run for cost cutting. So there's a lot of unknown here to justify numbers that are pretty scary to someone like President Trump, who said he wanted to keep people covered if they couldn't take care of themselves. This plan doesn't do that.
Well, look, a lot of the numbers that this shows in terms of people losing are people that just don't choose to take health insurance because the individual mandate will be taken away, and that's one of the most unpopular
things. A portion.
Of
you still have 10 to 14 million people who will get thrown off Medicaid.
Sure. There is no doubt that this is a difficult process. There is no doubt that, look, anytime you make big changes, big moves, we're not doing earmarks to help pass this. We're trying to do this on our own in terms of saying this is the right thing to do. There's going to be a difficult process in this. This is why we'd like to bring Democrats in on that third tranche, for instance, to say, how can we make this better?
But why would they want to join you if you're going to knock 10 to 14 million people off who need the help? Why would they join you?
Because But here's the issue. What we have right now, for instance, and I hear this from my folks all the time, you have basically health insurance by name only. You have gigantic deductibles, gigantic premiums, to where the average family in some cases is paying $20,000 or $30,000 a year before they even see the first dollar of benefit. And so when it comes to, for instance, Medicaid, we're allowing the states that have expanded to stay expanded, to continue to enroll until 2020, and at that point then, only when somebody cycles off do they come back on at that lower rate, and then the state can decide what to do beyond that. So, look, this is a very difficult process, but we know the situation we're in right now isn't working, and we're going to do our best to make it better for the American people.
Congressman Kinzinger, always a pleasure to have you on New Day. As we get more details, let's get back after.